Good afternoon on what is a mild, bright and blustery day. It is Friday the 2nd of February and I'm in the reading Nook with a nice hot cup of tea and a package to unbox, and that's come from the Merry Mushmen, so I have a very good idea of what is in here because I can sort of tell from the package I've received something similar before. So the Merry Mushmen is a French publisher of content and role-playing games for the English-speaking market. And it is best known for what I'm pretty much sure I'm about to pull out of this package, which is we can't see it there, but if I show you that, I'll show you, you can see just about it says Nook, and I'm going to undo get into the plastic. I'm going to get the knife again. So let's show you that properly. There we go. Nook. So an old school gaming bric-a-brac. So this is the closest that the old school Renaissance has to a magazine. So you know, essentially a sort of magazine of content which supports the old school essential role-playing game, retroclone, but is also compatible with almost every other retroclone you care to name. Easily adaptable to the game of your choice. So, one of the great things about Nook, this is the 4th issue, is that every single issue is jam-packed with content. No space is wasted. There's lots and lots of stuff in here that you know you're going to want to bring to your game: monsters, spells, classes, adventures. So we open up and it's basically a lovely cover, and then we have the Lost City sandbox. And the thing is, what you do with this is you take the cover off, and you've got an actual table on the inside. On the inside, on the book back cover. Okay, underneath the sleeve, and the sleeve itself. So it starts off there. You know, you've got the Lost City sandbox, and then you have inside. You've got a map of the sandbox, the city. You have random building table. A description of various locations in the middle there, a master table of essentially, let's have a look, encounters and effects of the cerulean haze which pervades the whole Lost City. So, you know, there we go. You've got a complete adventure location. And that almost literally comes as a bonus on top of whatever is in the rest of the book. And in the rest of the book, let's just have a look. We first start off, we pull out, we have the a handout. You have the Chaotahedron, a long-lost artifact once used by pre-human on profit to exert the will of reality. And essentially, it's a cut-out, 8-sided die, cardboard. You cut it out and you basically throw it, and yeah, that's ridiculous, but fun. I mean, that's just the inclusion of that is great. So then we open up and with more artwork, inside back cover, fantastic piece of artwork. Quick forward before we plunge into the contents with a list of the contributors and the contents. You see there's a lot of content in here, and it's quite a thick publication. It runs to 210 pages, and it's really densely packed. Quick little bit of manifesto. We need to create more third-party modules for small games, and then we leap into the first article, The Hobbit as a setting. Now, it's undoubted that The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings inspired Dungeons and Dragons, which is essentially what all this, the old school Renaissance, heavily draws from. This addresses it more directly, and of course, you know, we live in a great age where we have the One Ring role-playing game, which is a really good adaptation of the material. So this is actually essentially a mini game. It's talking about, you know, what the game is about, treasure hunting journeys, singing. What's the setting like? What are the characters like? And this is how to adapt your retro clone to play in a world like that of The Hobbit. So I've got to have to do exploration right. In search of battle travel rules, so not just exploration but travel as well. Travel rules. And then a discussion of, you know, I know a lot of great players, and everyone hopes that they're a great player. And there's a lot that, I mean, you know, and there's a lot that a player can do to make themselves a great player. And then basically blurb principles. This is essentially, you know, a guide to running a game. Why is your replacement PC in the dungeon? There's a table, basically, for working out why your new player character is in the dungeon. You know, deep in the dungeon, your previous player character has died. Your new one turns up. Why is he there? Knavish duties, things that you can do. You're running knave. More advice for the dungeon master. You know, basically dealing with elements of the setting which might be incongruous. Patching. This is blorb principles. About running a game. So patching your game using blorb principles. That's something I'm going to have to investigate. Making good rumours and building dungeons from those rumours. Describing actions and how to roll them. Some magical cloaks. So there's a lot of advice in this issue so far. Before we sort of get on to actual game content you want to add into. And then we have localism, the adventure as a microclimate. And then we have a look at another different genre, the romantic fantasy and old school Renaissance D&D. That's going to be an interesting article because romance is not something that's necessarily addressed in the old school Renaissance. It's all basically quite muscular and forward and so on. And then making encounters dynamic, more than just eight skeletons in a tomb. Fey bargains. We have a golem generator. Instead of what's in the pocket, what's in the sarcophagus table. Is it really worth the effort? D86, annoying and cumbersome treasures. Because you always kind of found big treasures down there sometimes, and you go, wow, that's worth that amount. And you're thinking, A, how am I going to get this out of the dungeon? And then you think afterwards, well, how am I going to get this out of the dungeon if in the first place, how did they get these things in the dungeon? So, for example, a pine coffin bound in sacred iron chains, or a granite block, final missing piece of the unfinished pyramid. How? Why? Okay. Then telephone Pictionary game as spell research. Monty seems to happen when a spellcaster dies. Lost spell books. D200 word power words of sorcery. And then role-playing the FGL. Not entirely sure what an FGL is. I will have to go and look that up. And then Treasure tells a story. I mean, lots of advice, and not just things to play, but this is really quite an advice and ideas heavy issue. Bonded Treasure, and aka the Smogian Gambit. And this sort of returns back to the earlier section on The Hobbit earlier in the volume. And then, you know, similarly, Knights versus Dragons, although that's more of a classic element. And then spells as ingredients to craft beings rather than objects. More spells. I rolled some random spells and came up with these recipes. And then that section of hirelings, dungeon decorations, more tables. The sword librarian. Now you're wondering, okay, is that someone who owns a library of swords, or well, here we have the swords, and these can all be added to your game for maximum effect and weirdness. And these will actually make great additions to the Black Sword Hack, which is the role-playing game from the Merry Mushmen, and then going back to sort of like that D&D romantic fantasy. This damsel is in distress, and then we have a quick adventure, Night of the Blood Swine, encountering helpful people, helpful souls, dungeon dressing with random Swedish books, an ugly map, and a couple of whys. Novel math. This is a look at the armor rules in your old school Renaissance role-playing game, and this is the author's solution to them. Playing D&D in the wargaming way. That's going to be an interesting article, given how much the origins of Dungeons and Dragons sort of come out of wargaming. And then reactions in the mythic underworld. My goblins are everywhere. Time, gear, and skill. Performing actions involving time, gear, and skill. So what do you want to move into Haphazard Tower? Nice illustration there from Glyn Seal. I recognise his style. And then sort of like, I think this is a cause. This will be like a resolution system. Desecration, an adventure, or type of adventures. Speak rules for talking animals in your game. If you want anthropomorphic or talking animals, weather dice and their effect. So you're adding weather to your game. Dark Fantasy Island Generator. Just roll a few dice, and you've got essentially a dark island for your player character to explore. Certainty, or often by myself torn between essentially options and actions. Dress to impress, optional character creation rules for crack, the old school essentials, or essentially that works with others. So you've got options for gaming. You know, creating characters that are really finely dressed and impress others. Thoughts on adventure writing, and then we've got dragons should be unique. So you've got tables there to roll on to create unique dragons. Never Ending Saga of the Worm. Essentially, an example adventure rolled up one of the tables on the previous pages. Essentially, so this is Never Ending Saga of the Everworm. This is a monster rolled up, a dragon rolled up on the tables presented here. And then Menagerie of Monstrosities. This is the bestiary section of the issue. So you've got like a Raptor Knight, followed by 4 villains. Neryl the Pale Huntress, accompanied by great art. Terpsichore the Devil Swan. These look like great villains, you know, just from the names alone. Ramnadir the Blade Bearer. And then we've got D40 discount monsters on the cheap, and then retinue of rogues. So I couldn't quite read that. The Ghoul-blooded, the Inquisitor. This is the class. This is the section on the classes. You know, fresh new classes. to add to your game. Now, none of these are all optional, or everything in this magazine is optional. At the same time, you know, you can pick and choose and create your. Then we've got the cynocephalus. You basically pick and choose these to create your world. You know, you may have some of these in your world, but not dwarves or elves, and so on. Then we have extraordinary excursions. This is the adventure section. So we've got the levels 1 to 2, swamp renewal, swamp set adventure. Quick and kind of dirty, especially with that kind of style of artwork. But, you know, nicely detailed, something you can run. Grandma's Cottage and Gift Shop, home of the famous pork and apple pies. And you're thinking, pork, really? Already? And then we have an illustration of Grandma. And you've got to get there through the forest and the cottage. And there's a lucky gnome mine nearby. Fistful of Feathers. Another little adventure. And page we have the Mountain Hall of the Iron Witch. And just how you know, in 4 issues this has progressed so much. This is just fantastic artwork. So just so impressive. It, you know, this it was great. And then lastly we have Welcome to the Old School. How to care for and nurture your 5th edition friends. Back to the Future of D&Ding. Talking about general gaming, I suppose. How I created the Deathbringer, an attempt at minimalism. Let's discuss author's notes. Problem solving to bring Shadow Dark role-playing game I've not looked at but really want to. And then, yeah, so I mean, going back to the this article, just note that this really comes on the wake of sort of like the reaction to the kerfuffle essentially over the OGL and what Wizards of the Coast plan to do to it. So yeah, that's a legitimate response. You know, everybody went, no, we already got a game, thanks, and this is the way to handle it. So let me just put the sleeve back on this. Impressive little book. You know, just if you've not got this, and you're a fan of the old school Renaissance, this is definitely worth you having. This issue really is, there's not a lot in the way of playable content in here as there has been in previous issues, but there's a lot of interesting ideas and suggestions and things that you can use to change how you play, what you play, and so on. So yeah, that's Nook 4. I think this is really another great issue. So I hope you've enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, then please do click on the like button down below. If you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings in the Nook, where you will see me out here with a package containing a book or game, in this case a magazine for the old school Renaissance, which I will unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do click on the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing in the Nook. I will be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.